Thank you, God, for this life. You didn't think I'd leave you hanging on a Saturday, huh? You already know. Most people will never experience real power. You know why? Because they don't even know what it looks like. Because they're asleep when it is being built. And if you're here with me at 4 a.m., you're already ahead. But the real question is, are you running your system, or is the system running you? Because if you think you're in control, but you're glitching, you're already being replaced. And that is not a metaphor. That is not some cute wordplay. That's how systems work. If you don't debug the system, it will delete you. Execute or expire. If you don't fix the errors, you will be replaced. Welcome to Raw 4, Epoch 1, Day 74. We reflect, audit, and debug. Excuse me. Let's get into our concept overview. This is real serious today. Real serious today. The silent system errors you don't see. You don't hesitate because you're lazy. That's just the excuse they sold you. You hesitate because your system is corrupted. The code that runs your life is filled with invisible errors, and you don't even know you're executing them. That is the terrifying part. Your glitches feel normal. You repeat habits, routines, and cycles, never questioning why. You're running programs that weren't even written by you. And if you don't debug them, they will delete you. Because that's what systems do. They don't argue, they don't negotiate, they autocorrect or they auto delete. We're going to find out if you are really running your system. I'm going to go into personal perspective. And then we're going to talk about some logic and science. When I saw the glitch in my own system, I realized I wasn't actually making choices. Essentially, I was auto executing. I was successful, but why? Success for the sake of success. I was purpose driven, but whose purpose? Mine or the one I adopted? I was in control, but only of the system that was controlling me. That's when it hit me. The entirety of my life and how I was living inside a glitch, a generational glitch, a societal glitch, a self-imposed glitch. And here's the scariest part. I thought I was awake, but I was just a high-functioning sleepwalker. Think about what we're saying. Apply this to your life. Let's talk about identity addiction. This is a revelation that I came to. Your brain is hooked on who you were. what if you're not just repeating bad habits? What if you're not just struggling to change? What if you're addicted to your current identity? Here's a fact. Your brain just doesn't create habits. It gets chemically hooked on them. The first time you succeeded, your brain got high on it. The first time you played victim, your brain got high on it. The first time you felt important, your brain got high on it. And just like any drug, the more you repeat it, the more you need it. You start building a tolerance for who you are. You stop feeling alive unless you reinforce your old self, even if it is killing you. And the minute you try to change, withdrawal, confusion, resistance, anxiety, a void you can't explain. That, my beautiful people, that is the identity hangover. Your system is fighting to keep you the same. So if you feel lost when you try to grow, good. That means the old you is dying. And we must let it. Let's check the chat. Are you debugging? Are you debugging your system? Do you appreciate the words and what they mean? There's nothing wrong with you. Who defines what's wrong? It is merely that you are a system operating as you've always operated. And we must always operate our systems in order to feel alive. There's so many things that back this: philosophy, science, spirituality. Pick a subject, any subject. It'll help identify what's going on. The reality is, if you don't wake up to you, if you don't stop to listen to who you are and what you are saying to yourself, then I question again and again, how do you identify? I don't understand or know, based on anything I've experienced, researched, engaged in. Apparently, we're all chasing something. We're all trying for something. And yet, so many of us, apparently, possibly, almost definitely, maybe, are failing. How could we invoke the concept, idea, and feeling and desire of change for ourselves, yet never accomplish the change for ourselves, yet are always, no matter what, changing? If even just simply that we are aging and time, the elusive time, does what time does to us, and we wake up eventually, incrementally, until the greatest regret before we tap out and time out. Apparently, the greatest regret of the dying, that we didn't live the life we thought we should live for ourselves, as ourselves. And why? If we can identify that there are changes we need to make, but we can't seem to make the change, can't we just simply ask the question, what is going on in my system, my life system, my self system, that is preventing me? That is why the science of addiction is important. You are chemically driven to repeat being who you are at all times. You can become addicted to living a life of lack. You can become addicted to living a life of not feeling good or great or down and out, depressed. Pick a pendulum, swing it in a direction, apply a definition to it, and once you entertain it and you indulge in it and you spark it, you want to repeat it. Because Your system wouldn't know otherwise. If you stop living as you live today, right now, you would essentially spaz out. Try it. Try not living exactly try living exactly the opposite of the way you're living now, and watch how you freak out emotionally. Because you throw your body off chemically. You start to feel different, and you immediately try to figure out, why am I feeling this way? Let me go back to how I always felt. Even if it meant how I always felt is not how I wanted to feel. Do you understand the power in that? This is what we're trying to talk about on the Do You rules. You're always doing you anyway. And if you're complaining about how you're doing you, you've built a system of complaints. And God, universe, society, environment will always reinforce to you what you believe. I end every session, I am who I say I am. You think it's cool and it's just words. Why? No, because I am who I say I am. So are you. And the minute you stop being who you say you are, you create conflict in your system. And you will glitch because you are already glitching. There's a possibility that you never ever gave yourself the opportunity to ask yourself, why do I think as I think? Do you even realize what you think? Sometimes I question it. I don't think you do, because I watch people and what they're behaving and how they're doing it and how they're moving. And I say to myself, you can't be thinking. Because if you're thinking, why would you do that to yourself? If you were really thinking about what you were feeling and how you were feeling and what you wanted to do, and yet you repeated systems and habits and continue with the same outcomes that didn't give you what you wanted, why would you repeat that? You wouldn't if you knew. It comes back down, of course, why is God root? Why do we talk about faith, honor, and loyalty? It takes power to override your systems. It takes belief to move in a direction you haven't moved. It takes an understanding and appreciation that it could be like me, decades. You're fighting decades. You're fighting a massive shift, a massive glitch. We're going to get into more about the consequences of this. I gave you some personal perspective. I gave you an identity addiction revelation. Your brain is hooked on who you were. Your brain is hooked on who you were, and who you were continues to be who you are, and who you could be will never come to fruition because you're addicted on who you were. That is another ultimate glitch. That you keep thinking you have to be as you are because of all you were, because you know no different, as if you can't experience different. Who told you you can't experience different? Who told you it has to continue the same way? And who told you you have to believe it? At what point were you convinced? And why can't you be unconvinced? Let's talk about the Tower of Babel. This is from the book. A system glitched by its own hubris. I love that word. It's a strong word. In Genesis 11, humanity came together with one language, one system, one mission. Their goal was to build a tower that reached the heavens, to prove their ability, to prove their power, to prove their dominance. Man always wants to be dominant. To make their name undeniable without needing God. Good luck with that. Here's where they glitched. They thought their success was indestructible. They thought their system was foolproof. They thought they could build something so strong that it would hold up, even if they didn't debug the errors at the foundation. What is your foundation? God didn't just stop them. He didn't crush it, bring a wave, and eliminate them. He exposed their system error. He didn't destroy the tower. He confused their language. He showed them that their execution had a fatal flaw. They weren't really aligned. And that is exactly what happens when your system is glitched. You think you're executing, but your foundation is cracked. You think you're moving, but your system isn't aligned. You think you're unstoppable until the consequences hit and your entire structure collapses. My beautiful people, if God ordered your execution today, would he find a strong foundation or a glitched system running off of, amongst many things, ego? You have choices. You always have choices. I believe there's just two. You debug, fix the foundation before the whole thing collapses, which would be your life. Imagine that your life is collapsing before your very eyes. Delete. Keep ignoring the glitch and wait for the crash. Align your system. Run it right, or lose everything when the system wipes itself out. You either build with clarity or you collapse in confusion. Debug or delete. Choose. Choose. Imagine that too, that you stop choosing for yourself in life. Let's check the chat. Who would be here with me at 4:19 in the morning on a Saturday? Now, we could even look at this and think that this is some additional revelation. Oh my God, I'm so disciplined. We all these superlatives that we throw at people that appear to be doing things that we would want to do, as if there's some magic to it. You just do it. I know, cliche. I get it. Why can't you do it? Your system's glitching. How don't you realize you're in a glitch if you know that you should be doing something different and you can't force yourself to do something different? You can't force you. You can't change you. If you can't change you, you can't change. Because if it requires something else or someone different, you're as what you were that you constructed. You are constructed in the image of God and Creator. You were created and you became a mimic. If you're glitching, it's because you're repeating code that was provided to you, installed in you, and it was never you to begin with. There's a reality, my beautiful people, that at this point in your life, wherever you are, I don't care how young or old, you haven't stopped to listen to yourself. You don't even know your true voice. If you did, how could you ignore you? How could you ignore you? The only way is if you know it's not really you, but you're addicted. You're addicted because life in that way, it gives you a high every now and again. I can't stress to you enough how addicting it is to complain and do nothing and fall back into comfort. I can't tell you how addicting it is to expose the system around as the error and place blame and relinquish authority and dominion over your life. It's addicting. I can't tell you how addicting it is to make excuse after excuse after excuse and validate it. I can't tell you how addicting it is to do exactly what you're doing right now and pretend as if you thought something different would happen. Let's get into a visual stimulant for today. We're going to call this the glitch in the mirror. Put yourself here. Imagine, immerse, stepping in front of a mirror. But instead of your reflection moving with you, it hesitates. A second too slow, a fraction of a step behind. At first, you brush it off. Maybe it's your eyes playing tricks. But then, the more you watch, the more you realize the delay isn't random. It is a glitch. You move forward, but the reflection lags. You turn your head, but your past self stares back at you, and suddenly it clicks. That's not just a mirror. That is your life. That is your system. And the glitch, that is everything you refused to update. While you're trying to grow, are you really trying to grow? Your system is still running the old version of you, the weaker you, the slower you, the outdated you. And here's the uncooked, here's the raw, here's the really real truth. Until you debug the system, you're never going to see the new you. There'll never be a new you. Until you update the code, you'll always be lagging behind. And here's the real warning that should absolutely terrify you and send goosebumps up your spine. If the delay goes on too long, the reflection stops following you at all. You keep moving, but the system stays stuck. And one day you realize you're just watching a ghost of who you used to be. Debug or delete. The system does not wait. This is your life. There's consequences. Here's the consequences of not debugging your system. Let's start with self-system consequences. This is what I would say is the internal collapse. You will keep repeating the same thought patterns that hold you back. You will keep repeating the same thought patterns that hold you back. Your habits will continue executing without your permission. Your identity will become outdated, a version of you that no longer serves you. You will be alive, but not in control. Here are the spiritual system consequences. What I would say is the disconnection from source. You will operate on borrowed beliefs instead of true alignment. You will seek meaning externally instead of creating it internally. Your faith will erode, not because God left you, but because you stopped accessing him. You might even be successful, but empty, moving, but lost, awake, but unconscious. Here are network system consequences. How the world sees you and replaces you. You'll become a glitch in your environment. People will move past you, outgrow you, or worse, replace you. You will lose your influence and become background noise in your own story. You will be present, but irrelevant. That's the real danger. If you don't debug your system, it will delete you. Not all at once, not dramatically. Won't be an Oscar-worthy Netflix show, but slowly, silently, and permanently. Debug or delete, fix it or fade. We got to check the chat. I can't continue to express the significance of this if you but so allow what we are talking about, this topic, to permeate. If Saturday is for reflection and contemplation, the ultimate debug, the ultimate contemplation and reflection is that you are operating as you, except you never decided who you were. And in that way, you keep thinking you're deciding who you're going to become and who you want to be. But foundationally, who you were was never established. Like the tower, you chase, you build, you stack floors, but you're creating infrastructure and you're stacking floors and building in an enclosed environment with limitations that were provided to you, with rules and laws and operating procedures that aren't illogical or nonsensical. It's just you never stopped to appreciate what they meant and the implications. So you build an entrap inside of an entrapment that is really built on the infinite. Everything you see is being held up by the infinite. That's why I believe God is so important. You could build whatever structures you want, whatever walls. You can protect yourself as much as you think you can, but it still has to be held by something. Think about what I'm saying. Think about what we're talking about. Think about your life. Let's talk about how to debug your system. I'm talking about fixing it at every level. There's a fix. There was absolutely a fix. I wouldn't be me if there wasn't. I certainly wouldn't be here at 4:30 in the morning. Let's fix it at every level. Let's begin with the self-system debug. It is to reprogram your internal execution, right? Interrupt the glitch. The moment you catch yourself on autopilot, come to consciousness. Stop. Say out loud. System check. You got to start identifying. System check. Don't just drift into autopilot. Audit your default reactions. What do you do without thinking? Who programmed you to react that way? Now we got to rewrite the code. Force a system override. Make one different decision per day. Prove you're in control. The result, no more unconscious loops. No more borrowed programming. One decision per day. Prove you're in control. Spiritual system debug. Reconnect to your source code. Question your inputs. What are you consuming spiritually? Are you feeding faith or feeding fear? Ask yourself that. Pray. Pray like you're plugging in. Don't pray passively. Pray actively, like logging into the source of all power. Why wouldn't you? You are in the image of Creator. Replace hesitation with faith-based execution. This is why faith is law 2, is rule 2 of the Do You rules. Faith doesn't mean to wait, it means moving. The result, you stop running an outdated belief system and move with divine authority. I don't care how you define it. The infinite is available to you, the image of Creator. Let's talk about the network system debug. You must reposition yourself as indispensable. Run the replacement test. If you vanished today, what would collapse? If the answer is nothing, that's the problem. Add irreplaceable value. Find the invisible work that only you can do. Find the invisible. Everything doesn't need to be so public. Eliminate system friction. The more efficient and undeniable you are, the less likely you are to be replaced. Here's the result. You don't just exist in a system, you run it. You move from expendable to indispensable. Give me a second while that hits. You move from expendable to indispensable. I hope this makes it to you. I believe so deeply that this is the core fundamental. We all can change. Everybody can change. And I don't think that there's anyone who wouldn't want change. And I don't think there's anyone who experiences change that doesn't become addicted to that. You're going to be addicted anyway. Here's the warning. You cannot escape the glitch without withdrawal. The moment you debug your system, you will feel withdrawal. What are you talking about, Jeff? Your old habits, they will fight back. Your body will crave the same routine, even if it's weak. Your mind will beg for the comfort of autopilot. Because here is the truth. The high of your past self, you got addicted to it. You got higher versions of yourself that you were fed. And now, your system, like any system, is going through withdrawal. That's the real test. Most people relapse back into the glitch because they don't recognize the withdrawal for what it is. Debug the system. Push through the withdrawal. Fix the glitch. Don't let the old version of you reboot itself. Debug or delete. The system does not wait. Is a massive key to this. Massive key, especially in this instant life we live. I'm not selling you an immediate fix. There is none. I don't believe it. My beautiful people, listen to yourself. Most people try to fix their life all at once. That is a glitch in itself. You don't debug everything at once. You debug at the level that's failing first. Ask yourself these questions. What's the biggest system error for you? For you. Self-system glitch, mindset and habits. Spiritual system glitch, faith and meaning. Network system glitch, influence and value. Contribute. Drop it in the comments. What are you debugging? Yourself, your spiritual, or your network? Start slow. Run the fix, debug, or delete. The system doesn't wait. And you either run the system or the system runs you. Change your mind, change your life. I am who I say I am. Do you and stay rich.